This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any health or lifestyle changes. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Her podcast, your go-to space for real talk, inspiration, and laughter as we navigate life as a woman. Let's dive in.
Hey, hello, welcome back to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. I'm Tracy Mail, your host for today. I'm a health empowerment coach working with women and men to improve their health naturally so they can live their best life. We're so excited today for today's episode, which is focused on a topic I think I need help with that touches a lot of us, cognitive health and caregiving for loved ones with dementia.
Yes.
We're joined by Kathi Miracle, a certified dementia expert and brain trainer with over 30 years of experience in the senior living space. She is the founder of Silver Tsunami Aging Info, which is a platform dedicated to helping people on the dementia journey with compassion, accurate information, and practical support. We'll also dive into how women, often the primary caregivers, can look after their own well-being while caring for others. Before we dive in, let's have my lovely co-host Cynthia introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Penner, a menopause coach and author of the Menopause Map book series. And I guide women through the wonderful, sometimes wild world of menopause. My focus is helping women navigate this season of life with confidence, knowledge, and hopefully a whole lot of laughter.
Nice. Thanks for that. That's awesome. Okay, so let's dive into today's episode. Kathi, we are so excited to have you here today. To kick things off, can you share with us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and how your journey led you to focus on dementia care?
Okay, well, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. One of my passions is talking about cognitive health and the dementia journey, and people usually see that come out of me a little bit. I am a native of Colorado, which there's not a lot of us left. I am married to a gentleman who I met in seventh grade, and we actually have a blended family of 4 kids and 3 grandkids. And I have dedicated my career to working with people with dementia and their families. And now I'm focused on how to protect and maintain cognitive health to avoid a dementia journey.
Wow.
Wow.
Welcome, Kathy.
That is absolutely fantastic. I love that. So thanks for sharing that. So let's get this conversation started. Can you start by sharing your thoughts on how we can protect and maintain our cognitive health as we age?
Sure, absolutely. So we now know, I actually was really fortunate to sit in on a webinar with doctors and scientists from the United States and Canada last fall. So I do a lot of ongoing education and currently getting my certification in neuroscience as well to just understand the brain a lot better, to be able to help people. But we now know that we can identify changes in the brain up to 20 years prior to a dementia diagnosis. So that is
20?
ample time for people to implement a lifestyle program to protect and maintain cognitive health. There are 6 components to the lifestyle program, which is not rocket science. You know, we can all do it. We just have to do it consistently. It's not perfect. And I always tell people you have your cheat days or your cheat moments, but there's 6 components. The first one is diet, you know, staying on either a heart healthy diet or a Mediterranean diet. We now know what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So when we are consuming, especially white processed sugar, it inflames the body and if it is inflammation to the body, it's inflammation to the brain. And when the brain is inflamed, it has difficulty functioning and sending messages from point A to point B. So diet is really important, especially getting the healthy fats like anything with omega-3s in them, you know, salmon, tuna, that type of stuff. Hydration is the second component. I usually tell people, you know, drink at least 60 ounces of water, but no more than half your body weight. People who drink a gallon of water a day, I mean, there's programs out there that encourage that. You can actually flush important nutrients and minerals and vitamins from your body when you're drinking too much water. So I usually recommend you got to get in some, you know, people always say, well, if I drink too much water, then I have to go to the bathroom a lot. I'm like, well, I get that. I understand it. But if you're not drinking water, you're not insulating the body and your healthy organs the way you need to. So I usually recommend a minimum of 60 to 64 ounces, but no more than half your body weight in ounces in water. The next component is sleep. And it's not the quantity of sleep we get, it is the quality of sleep we get. And so being in a deep sleep or REM sleep, you have to have good quality sleep. We now know that sleep deprivation actually shrinks the brain. And so it becomes very complicated when I hear people say they can function on 4 or 5 hours. Physically, they might be able to, but cognitively, it's going to cause long-term damage. And so the quality of sleep that we get is really very important. I monitor mine. I mean, you can do it through an Apple Watch. There's a lot of devices out there now to monitor quality sleep. If you're getting an average of 8 hours of sleep, 4 to 5 or even 6 hours of that should be quality. The majority, 2/3 of what you sleep should be quality sleep. And so not getting quality sleep can definitely affect individuals cognitively. The other step is exercising. Strength exercising is great, but anything cardio that gets oxygenated blood to the brain, I supplement that and teach people how to do deep breathing exercises to help force that oxygen to the brain. Studies now show, even if we're doing bursts of exercises, so for people who, when we're trying to fit it into a busy schedule, I'm like, if you would just, put 5 minutes on and for 5 minutes walk as vigorously in place as you can, that'll actually give these spurts of oxygenated blood to the brain. And those can be just as healthy as going for a 30-minute walk. And so when people, I always try to help people find how to stick this into busy schedules. And so if you have a favorite TV show on or you're watching the morning news, just set a timer and walk as fast as you can, and, for 5 minutes. And if you do that throughout the day, if you do a few of those throughout the day, you can get in quite a bit of steps and you can increase your heart rate up to, 100. I've gotten mine up to at least 118 beats a minute. And mine's usually at 60, resting. So you can really get the heart going in just those quick bursts of exercising throughout the day. Cognitive exercising or brain training is another component to this. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that, so I won't go into it a lot in detail right now. But being able to do things to continue exercise the brain is just as important as what we do to exercise our body. And then socialization is another key component. And what oftentimes can happen when people start having cognitive decline, one of the very first things they do is they start isolating themselves or minimizing the amount of socialization they do. And that's the opposite of what we want them to do. It actually can contribute further to decline. So what we know now is that when we combine those 6 things and we do them consistently, that we can avoid a dementia diagnosis altogether. The studies show in 2019, the Centers for Disease Control, the National Institute on Aging, and the National Alzheimer's Association came out publicly and said, if you do these things, 60% of people could avoid a dementia diagnosis altogether. And that's a very large statistic for those who are on that journey. So we do know that, people jokingly will tell me, well, you're not going to let me have my beer. You're not going to let me have my brownie. I'm like, no, it's not that I'm not going to let you have it, but you got to do it in moderation. You can't have brownies every day. That's what you can't have. And so we teach people how to implement this program slowly and then do it consistently to protect cognitive health.
Right.
What you
I love
just
that.
described, the regimen or the 6 things of hormone balancing because I specialize in menopausal women. You just gave the 6 tiers for that. And also with the drinking the water, what you just said with the micro exercising. Yeah, if you're because most of us have sedentary jobs now, you're sitting at a desk all day. So if you are having to go to the bathroom, then you are literally having to get up and do that walk. And even if you like walk quickly on move to the bathroom, move back, then you had that micro movement when you had to go pee. So yeah, drink those ounces of water. Yes, go pee more.
Yep.
And yes, while you're up, you moved your body
Yep.
and you went to the bathroom. So you just described the
That's
6 steps.
It's
So it
priority
aligns very
health, right?
nicely, yeah. And
Absolutely.
I'll teach people, like, when you're going grocery shopping, why don't you park further out? So it forces you to
Mm.
walk more, or take the stairs instead of the elevator if you can. The building my office is in, we actually have a ramp. They have a ramp and a stairs. So I always go up the ramp, and because it's a longer distance for me to go than just going straight up the stairs. And so there are ways to get those little things in. Even, if I go to the bathroom, I sometimes will go to the bathroom downstairs versus the bathroom that's two doors down from my office. So you can
Yeah.
find those little things to do, and they all add up over time throughout the day.
Yeah.
Especially
Love
adding
that.
them up to avoid a dementia diagnosis. Like
Yeah.
that is something that scares so many women, especially when we're going through hormonal changes, because they're linking so closely right now. So from your perspective, how much of that cognitive slip that we notice in our 40s and 50s is just part of normal aging, and what should prompt us to take a closer look? Like when you're meeting with a client and they walk in and they're having that conversation in their 40s and 50s.
Excuse me. So dementia is actually the second most feared diagnosis in the world.
Yes.
Cancer of any kind is the first, but it is actually the second most feared. There are actually about 400 types of dementia, which most people don't know, and 10 of those are pediatric. So the youngest person worldwide to have ever been diagnosed with a form of dementia was 2 years old in Louisiana, March of 24. And so there are about 700,000 individuals under the age of 18 worldwide that live with a form of dementia. So it is a scary topic. We often think that it only hits older adults. It does not. Even the youngest person who's diagnosed with Alzheimer's was 19 years old in China. So there are a lot of things to be doing to protect cognitive health. So what is part of normal aging? Part of normal aging, the science behind it is that we have billions of neural pathways in our brain. Each neural pathway is protected by a coating called myelin sheath. For all of us, myelin starts breaking down in our late 30s and early 40s. So it's easy to open a refrigerator and go, was I putting something in or was I taking something out? Or you walk into a room and you go, what did I walk in here for? Or you have difficulty with word finding. So there is a particular part of all of this that is part of normal aging, because the thinner or the more damaged the myelin is, the harder it is for the the brain to send the message from point A to point B. So what I try to give the analogy is, if you were driving across a lake, you're driving across a bridge, right? And the bridge has potholes in it, or part of it is washed out. You're going to drive a lot slower. You're going to drive at 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, so that your car doesn't get damaged. You don't, get, into pop a tire or whatever. So you're going to drive slower when that bridge is damaged. If the bridge is solid, brand new, you could go across it at 60 miles an hour, right? It's the same kind of thing in the brain. When that myelin is strong and it's healthy, the brain can send the message a lot faster than if it's damaged or it's thin. The good news is that myelin never stops growing. It can wrap around a neural pathway 40 to 50 times, and the thicker and stronger it is, the faster the message. And so myelin will continue to grow up until we take a final breath. And how it grows is through intense repetitive exercises, which I'll talk about when we talk about brain training. What's not normal? What's not normal is if somebody doesn't know where their keys are and they can't retrace their steps to go, okay, so like a lot of times, my husband encourages me to always put them in the same place every single time. And I don't. They get thrown here, they get thrown here. But I can at least go, okay, when I came in the door last night, oh yeah, I was carrying all this stuff and I think I threw them on the couch when I dropped all my bags on the couch. And I'll go back and look and there they are. When someone cannot retrace their steps, then that's a problem. We start seeing people forget to pay bills. They don't eat. We start seeing them decline. So there are definite red warning flags. The Alzheimer's Association website actually lists the 10 top warning signs to watch for. And so, those, for some people, if they get nervous about that, they're like, well, that sounds like me, because we all can Google anything and then we go, oh my gosh, I have all this symptoms, right? And we get very, very nervous. So if they're worried about cognitive decline, or they're worried about, I always encourage them to do a cognitive assessment with a primary doctor or neurologist. There's so many of them out there. There's some that take about 15 minutes. There's some that can go a lot longer than that. The SLUMS, which is the St. Louis University University Mental Status Exam, and the MOCA, which is the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, are the two most popular ones that I see doctors do. And they can give us a good picture or a baseline. I usually tell people, just know that a cognitive assessment is a snapshot in time, and there's a lot of things that can skew that too, such as a poor night's sleep, dehydration, malnutrition, altercation to medications, a full moon, alcohol. I mean, there's a lot of things that can skew it, not by a lot of points, but a little. And so I always say start there, find out what your baseline is, and then the recommendations go from there.
I really
Interesting.
like the way you said, like forgetting where your keys are, because that is such a poignant one, because we do that a lot. But the fact that you said, if you spend a moment and you can retrace your steps, then it's regular decline. But if you can't retrace your steps, then you've got, so then if someone comes, you say, well, I'm forgetting where my keys are. Can you retrace your steps? And then you
Right.
can, then the mind can
Yeah.
get put at ease. You're not, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, if
that's-
you're finding things, like I have individuals who come to me, and what they did was they found the car keys in the cereal box, or they found the remote control in the refrigerator. Those would be signs of concern. I mean, that's not a normal
Okay.
place where we would put something. And so that is something that I would encourage them at that point. Like if you're finding those normal, regular daily things in a place that's not normal, yeah, that would be a red flag to say, I think we need to pursue a little bit further as to what might be going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. As my dad, we are very sure he's at this stage
Mhm.
of onset dementia. And so this is interesting because he can't retrace, like he struggles to do that. So
Mhm.
this is very, very informative.
And the
This is
thing
good.
is that the things I talked about protecting and maintaining cognitive health, if somebody is very early in a dementia diagnosis or very early in those stages, if they implement those things and they do them consistently, I've helped people reverse cognitive decline. And it's not me telling them, it's their doctor telling them. And so
Right.
there are ways to be able to do it. The challenge is doing it, implementing it and doing it consistently. But we now know
Right.
that we can avoid dementia, delay it, and in some cases, reverse cognitive decline for
Reverse
an
it.
individual.
That's interesting. You had mentioned quality sleep. I'm assuming that means deep sleep. Is there a certain, how much do you recommend for deep sleep?
Like if someone was sleeping 8 hours, 5 to 6 of those should probably be in deep sleep. About 2/3 of your time
Wow.
sleeping should be in deep sleep.
Okay.
So that's why I say mine gets tracked. I use a watch. I have an Apple
So do
Watch.
I. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have an app that tracks my sleep, and if it's in the green or the blue, I'm in a great shape. If it gets into the yellow, I know that I'm probably a little more cranky. If it gets into the red, that's there's
Yeah.
not good when I get into red zones.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
I've been able to track it, and I watch it very carefully. And I've been watching like what happens, and I've been doing this probably, oh, I bet I've been tracking my sleep for the last 15 to 18 months. And so I can tell on days when I'm in yellow or red how I'm functioning, and days when I'm in green or blue how I'm functioning. And it
Yeah.
absolutely does make a difference.
Oh,
And then you can
absolutely.
retrace what you did the night before that put you, right? And then,
Yes.
Possibly, yeah. Sometimes,
Yes.
sometimes it's actually that I had a glass of wine or a margarita or something, and I just didn't sleep as
Yeah.
well for whatever
Yeah.
reason. So, and if for everybody, it's different too. So I've
Yes.
tracked like what I eat and what causes challenges, or what I don't eat and I should be, or drink, or I watch my hydration very carefully. So I've tracked myself. Even to just notice what changes I see cognitively. And then, of course, I work with lots of clients that we track theirs as well.
That's
Nice.
interesting. I get an hour of deep sleep. I thought I was doing good. I'm not even close.
Well, you are
Nice.
better than nothing. You
Yeah.
know, yes. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to work on that now. That's good.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that was fantastic. Thanks so much for all of that. We all know that caregivers, especially women, often put themselves last.
Yep.
How can women who are caring for a loved one with dementia take better care of themselves while juggling that kind of responsibility?
So I love talking to women and caregivers in general, family caregivers and professional caregivers about this topic specifically. And usually what I'll say is, how many people have flown on an airplane? People raise their hand. I go, okay, good. When we're actually paying attention to the flight attendants, because most people don't, I said the flight attendants actually say if the cabin loses pressure, an oxygen mask will fall from, the ceiling. And the very first thing you do is you put it on yourself before you put it on somebody else, right? Because if you don't, then you're going to lose oxygen, you're going to lose consciousness possibly. I go, so if the airlines know that you should take care of yourself first, right? Then, we should do that ourselves. But I get as a professional caregiver, as a family caregiver, I totally understand that women oftentimes put themselves last and they don't take it as a priority. So my suggestion always is schedule it. If it's on your calendar, like when I do training and I speak at conferences, I'll say, how many of you miss the doctor's appointment that's scheduled? We don't usually, right? Or the car's broke down and you have an appointment with the mechanic. How many of you miss that? Right? You don't, because it's important, right? And then you may not get the car in for another few weeks or into the specialty doctor. So I will say, look at your calendar and find ways to put it on the schedule, and you schedule around that, and for everybody, it's a little bit different. So when they say, what do you recommend people do? Well, I recommend whatever feeds your soul. So for some people, that's a pedicure. For some, it's a nap. For some, it's a bubble bath. For some, it's a massage. For some, it's like, let me just take a walk in nature or listen to music. And so for everybody, we have something different that feeds our soul and that refreshes us and re-energizes us. What I also say is, if you picture yourself like a pitcher of water, you're the pitcher, the fluid inside that is your energy. The glasses around you are all your responsibilities. Every time you pour your energy into your responsibilities, that fluid goes down. At some point, you would have to go back and refill that fluid in order to keep filling your responsibilities. So if you don't, you're going to hit a brick wall. You will have a breakdown. You will burn out. You will start having health challenges. And so the best way for people is if they just get it on the calendar and they schedule it. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. Maybe you start off with 5 or 10 minutes, a couple of times a week, and you build up to 30 minutes to an hour a couple of times a week. But if you don't go in and replenish your fluid, you're going to have problems. If you don't do it, God will step in and do it for you. That's just the bottom line. You'll have a heart attack, a stroke, something will happen, and God will put you in a hospital, or God will step in and do it for you. And I don't think any of us want God making that decision for us, because it's usually on the crisis end.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Love that. Love that.
Schedule
Love
with
that.
intent. Like I worked in this job where I saw clients on a daily basis, and it was a small town. And of course, there was more clients than we could handle. And my manager always said, you are the master of your calendar. You decide how long the appointments are, how many you're going to have, and schedule a break between appointments so that you can take a moment to exhale before you go on the next one. But I always remembered, you are the master of your calendar. And but having said that, we're also women, and the people putting the glasses around our picture, they're also important and they're also demanding. And as women, especially for me and my generation, we were taught caregive, caregive, caregive. And so it almost feels selfish to, especially if you're living with the parent who needs the caregiving, or there's only your siblings live far away and you're the only one there for that parent. And even though you're trying to juggle full-time jobs, if your parent needs to go to the doctor, then the cup goes there and the picture is empty or empty, right? So how do you have that gentle conversation to say, you get it, the cups are going around the picture and you're doing your best, but how do you have that intent?
It's usually why I encourage people to start with 5 to 10 minutes first, because when you look at your schedule, and I walk and breathe it all the time. I mean, my mom is almost 91 years old, and in the last few weeks, she's been in the ER, she's been in the hospital, she's in rehab, she's back in the ER. And so I walk the talk, I juggle my schedule just as much. But part of us making sure we're taking care of ourselves is building a solid network as well. And so I'm very fortunate to get along with my siblings, and we juggle who's going to be where with my mom, and I have an incredibly supportive spouse who he jokingly will say, you can do anything you want, you just can't do everything you want. And when it talks about my schedule.
Yep, I love that.
So I also tell people it doesn't matter where you live in the world, and it doesn't matter what you do for a living, or if you're a stay-at-home mom. Nobody has more or less than 168 hours a week. Nobody. It's that 7 times 24. And so it's how we manage our time. So in the beginning, yes, I totally get busy schedules. So when you can take 5 or 10, maybe you spend 5 more minutes in a hot shower. You're already in the shower. Maybe you just say, I'm just going to spend 5 more minutes in here and let the water hit me before I get out. Because a lot of times people know how to fit in 5 minutes here or 5 minutes there, or when they're driving in the car, just turn everything off. Turn the phone off. Nobody can reach you. Turn the music off. Do some deep breathing exercises while you're driving, or listen to your favorite playlist. If that's what feeds your soul, then shut off the phone and listen to your favorite playlist that's playing. And you're in the car for the next 15 minutes. And so I look at people's schedules and say, what if you could do this here? Or what if you could do this here? Or before you go to bed at night, like last night was a good example. I love foot baths. I've gone and gotten foot baths. I think they're very therapeutic. And so I just bought my own system at home. And the Denver Broncos were playing preseason last night. And so my husband did a foot bath while we were watching the game, and I did a foot bath while we were watching the game. And so we were already planning on doing it anyway. And so I look at people's schedules and talk to them and talk to me about where you're at and where you're going and what's all on your plate. Okay, now let's find 5 minutes, twice a week to just get it in, because 5 minutes is better than nothing. And then we build upon it. So yeah, I absolutely know we get pulled in 100 directions. I know that best laid plans can be interrupted. But I also know that if we teach people to fit it in 5 minutes here and there, then they learn to start building upon it because they recognize the importance of it.
I love that you
We
sit
start
with
off
them
small.
with their
Exactly.
schedule.
Yeah, we
That
start
is-
off.
Yes.
That's awesome that you sit with them. It's awesome that you go through their schedule and you point it out, right? Because I think having someone do that for them gives them permission to do it for themselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and it can seem very overwhelming. I can look at my calendar I could look at my calendar for this next week and go, wow, okay. And so when am I going to fit it in too? And that's why, and there are times when I'm sitting with someone, I'm like, let me show you my calendar. I get everybody's busy. So let me show you what my calendar looks like. And then they go, oh, wow. I go, so here's how I have to fit it into mine. And then they recognize that I'm not just telling them to do something. I'm actually showing them, here's the practical way of doing this. And if you get it on the calendar, if it doesn't get on the calendar and you're going to try to fit it in, it will never happen. It will absolutely never happen.
Yeah. And even if you put it on your calendar and you think, oh, that was just my time, that's not important, you have to treat it like it's an appointment with somebody else, because you wouldn't cancel on that other person. Don't cancel on yourself. Right?
That's exactly correct. And it's a mindset shift. We talk about it's not just doing it, it's actually a mindset shift. And so part of what I work with individuals is we work on positive affirmations. We work on how do we organize our day? What makes the most sense as a checklist item? Where do you fall in that list? So when if you were to look at my daily list, it always starts off with some things I do for me first, like 1, 2, and 3 are always things I do for me. And then it fills it in with the rest of the thing. Most people, when they're making to-do lists, they'll put themselves at the bottom. And so I train them, let's put yourself at the top. And all of a sudden, it feels guilty. It feels self-serving. It feels very selfish when we first start doing it. But as we continue to do it, then it's always like, yeah, I am important. Yes, even the airlines would tell me I'm important first. So start having to do, some people, it takes a lot to get that mind shift in there. But once we get them going on it and they get used to it, all of a sudden it's like, this is super important for me to take care of myself so that I can have the energy and be here to take care of the people who need me.
Fantastic. Just love that. Thank you. Thank you. That's so good. Okay, so their next topic, probably going to be just as exciting, on the list is something that you call, Kathi, you call it the sandwich generation. Can you tell us more about that? What does it mean and what's the impact on those that are part of that generation?
So the sandwich generation is usually people in their 30s and their 40s. It's individuals who are taking care of an elderly parent and raising children at the same time, and possibly grandchildren. They are usually at the height of their career if they're in the workforce, but even as moms. I mean, stay-at-home moms are incredibly busy by keeping their, and I've known stay-at-home dads too who support, the wife. And so it's not just stay-at-home moms, but most of the time it's a stay-at-home mom. And God bless her if she's a homeschool mom on top of everything else, because that's certainly something that's growing and I run into more frequently as stay-at-home moms that are homeschool moms. But when we are trying to when we're trying to juggle the responsibility of taking care of an older parent and the responsibility of kids and try to do our daily routine, whether that's being a stay-at-home parent or it is working in the workforce, that is a lot to juggle. That's a lot of balls in the air that we're trying to keep off the ground. And when I worked in memory care, I used to jokingly say anything and everything can happen at any given moment, and it does. And so life happens. Life happens to all of us. The car breaks down, the water heater goes out, a pipe bursts, the kids fell and skinned their knee, mom or dad fell and broke their hip. And it feels like sometimes it's all happening at the same time. And you sort of just want to say, Calgon, take me away. And so I dated myself there just a little bit.
You did, and I knew what it meant.
Me too.
Bubble bath.
No, you're younger,
Well,
you're not
same.
gonna know what Calgon is, but it was that. Okay, so now how do I juggle everything? So, and it's again, it goes back to scheduling. The more you can have a very regimented schedule and a solid network. My husband and I, we went separate directions so many times because somebody had to go to baseball practice, somebody had to go to volleyball practice, somebody had to be at this game, somebody had to be at this tournament, and so him and I were constantly going back. We had to pull in aunts and uncles at times to help take a kid somewhere or pick a kid up from a birthday party. And so know who your tribe is and know who your network is. And sometimes that's family and friends and volunteers and church people. Sometimes that is professional caregivers that you hire to help come in. And, there are so many services now with, there's I don't remember the name of the company, but it's an Uber service for kids where the driver is background checked and, mom's in a business meeting and Johnny needs to be picked up from school and taken to soccer practice. So this service will go do it. And they wear these bright orange shirts and the kid knows who to look for and, their background checked. And so at times, if people can afford it, I absolutely tell them pull in professional services because it will make your life so much easier. And when we are in that sandwich generation and you have to try to find how do you get your child to school or how do you get them to the birthday party at the same time, mom's being picked up by 911 and you got to get, you can't be everything to everybody. And so you have to start making some decisions about, okay, who needs to come in and help support so that things can get done. And so, I as an individual don't feel like I'm ready to pull my hair out.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that is an important point. So many people I work with are right in the middle, supporting aging parents while still showing up for their children or their grandchildren. So that constant pull in both directions can be exhausting. So in your experience, if we're bringing this all back to dementia, so what are some early red flags that a caregiver's own health might be taking a back seat to the point where that does cause the long-term harm?
So stress hits everybody differently. For some people, they stop sleeping. For other people, they develop migraines, or they can't eat, or they get nauseous, or they gain weight, they lose weight. Their hair starts falling out. The body gets inflamed. So there's so many different signs when it comes to stress, and you could line up 10 people, and every single one of them is going to have a different red flag. But what I tell people is we all know our own bodies. We know what's normal for us. What is our normal? What is our baseline? And when we start feeling off, I hear people say, well, I felt a little off. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your body's warning sign to say you need to stop and pay attention to this and what's going on. And so you start having to almost do a self-audit or a self-evaluation of things. And when I sit down and I listen to people, I'll start running through this. Like, what does your diet look like? What does your hydration look like? What does your sleep look like? Are you getting out and exercise? So we start going through that lifestyle program, each of those. And if all of those, and I can tell you, there's never been anyone I met with to begin with that everything was in line. If it is, they don't need me. I can tell you, well, you don't need me. Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah.
So more often than not,
Mm.
something is off, they're not sleeping, they're not eating. And believe me, I worked in senior living for 30 plus years and it was a 24/7 business. And so I get the phone calls at 3 a.m. and I'm walking out the door with a handful of something and I'm a handful of this as I'm eating. And there are nights I get home at 6 or 7 at night and I tell my husband, I haven't gone to the bathroom or eaten anything all day. And he's like, how is that possible? I'm like,
Gosh.
it's possible,
Yeah.
And so I recognized, or he helped me recognize the bad habits I had formed. And so the stress, if I can tell you the stress in my bodies is I can feel, my joints getting inflamed.
Mm.
I'm a lot more tired. And if I'm tired, I'm cranky. And so we just have to learn to know our own bodies because each of us will exhibit stress in a different way. But when we start seeing those things and our body starts feeling off, those are times when we have to really take a step back and say, okay, what's going on in my world? And what can I do on my own realistically, and where do I need to ask for help? And I get how difficult asking for help is because we want to be independent and we don't want to be viewed as lazy or we're being a diva or whatever, how someone wants to title it.
Yeah.
And so asking for help is a huge, huge step for anybody. And again, that goes back to that mind shift that we talk
Yeah.
about with individuals and saying, how often do you ask for help? Where is your
Mm.
support network? And people are flabbergasted when I ask them that question. But it's something that we spend time on because if you don't have a solid network or support system, you're going to burn.
Right. Yeah. Gonna crash and burn.
You're going to
Yeah.
crash and burn. That's exactly it. Mhm.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you. Fantastic. I have other questions, but I'll wait till we get down here. When it comes to the brain training, let's jump into that now. I'm excited to hear
Yes.
about that.
Okay.
So yeah, tell us all
So
about it.
brain training, the number one-on-one brain training around the world is a company called Learning RX. It happens to be headquartered in south of Denver in Colorado Springs. Their world headquarters are there. And they're not in every state, but if they're not in every state, they can still do assessments virtually. They can train virtually. But they can actually, everything they do is scientifically backed, and they can actually get pretty solid results in a very short amount of time to help strengthen and maintain cognitive health. There are a couple of online programs. Brain HQ is one. They are also scientifically backed, as well as Lumosity. And so there's Constant Contact, there's Code Ninja, I mean, there's Brain Balance. There's a lot of companies out there that people can get brain training formally. When I set up programs for people, I can tell them, if you're learning a new language, that's great. If you're learning a new hobby, golfing, anything you do strategically, backgammon, chess, there's a lot of things out there. There's books you can buy on Amazon that are brain boosters, that are great to do. So there are a lot of things that you can do on your own. The difference of doing it on your own or doing it with a company is the company's going to push you harder and you're going to get results faster. I have people who they'll say, well, I play Sudoku. Am I exercising my brain? I go, well, yes and no. If you walked into a gym and you walked in and you only exercised your biceps and walked out, are you exercising your body? Well, yes and no. You're exercising your biceps. You're just not exercising the triceps, the hamstrings, the glutes, the core skills. And so then I also have people who show me their phone and they go, I play this game and this game. And that's great, but we tend to pick games and things that we enjoy. So what we're doing is we're exercising the stronger parts of our brain. We're not exercising the weaker parts of the brain. So the stronger get stronger, the weaker get weaker is what happens. And so when it comes to cognitive exercising and brain training, there's a lot that you can do formally with a company. There's a lot you can do on your own. I can tell people, if you're driving in a car, like, how do you fit this in? How do you fit this into a busy schedule? So if you're driving in a car, you can see words, there's signs everywhere, the exit sign, this is the next street. Spell the words forwards and backwards and then put the letters in alphabetical order. So like the word stop, STOPPOTSOPST. You can start with 4-letter words. I have students who get up to 12-letter words, being able to spell them forwards and backwards and then alphabetically. That's something you can just Google 4-letter words or 5-letter words or 6-letter words. That's a great exercise for the brain. One of the best exercises is if you were reading words like karaoke and you were singing a song out loud and you're moving a body part. So like you're marching in place or you're waving your arms. It is the only exercise that'll exercise every part of the brain, including forcing the left and right to communicate with each other. So I used to do that a lot in senior living. It was part of our activity program a couple times a week. And if you're doing that for about 20 to 30 minutes, couple of 2 to 3 times a week, it is probably the best exercise for the brain.
Okay, I did not expect you to say that.
Yeah.
Karaoke, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
because
wanna
you
go
have
get a
to, so you're
karaoke
using a
machine
lot of
now.
parts of your brain. Yeah, you have to read you have to read the
Okay.
words. You have to focus on being in tune with and being on B, right? And then you're moving a body part. And so it would be great if senior living implemented a lot of this, and they don't. But we used to implement stuff so we knew we exercised every part of the brain in a 7-day period of time. And so now I teach people
Hmm.
how to do that and implement these things. So they can either do it on their own. It just takes longer when we do it on our own because we don't push it, and it's not as intense and it's not pushing ourselves. But the more intense and the more repetitive you can make it, that's how myelin grows in the brain, and that's how we strengthen that, and that's how we strengthen neural pathways. Hence, we avoid a dementia diagnosis or delay it or reverse cognitive decline.
Well, my next question was going to be how, with women already feeling stretched too thin, how do you add something? But you just added something absolutely amazing. Karaoke, like we all love singing in the shower, singing in the car, but now I've got something to do when I'm sitting on my porch, right? That's
Yeah.
that's
You
amazing.
really have to have the words and reading it too. But
Yep,
even just
Right.
singing it and moving, I mean, if someone was walking and singing and moving, it's better than nothing. And I mean, it's rare that you don't have people in the car singing to their favorite song, or they have
Yeah.
now when you have Spotify and Amazon Music and all the things that you can put your own music list together, then, we're not turning the radio off when the song comes on we don't like, or the artist comes
Yeah.
on we don't like, right?
Yeah.
We build our own playlists, which are amazing. I mean, I've watched
Mhm.
people. There's a documentary actually called now I can't remember it. But it is actually talks about music and dementia, and somebody may be non-communicative, but you put on the song Amazing Grace or You Are My Sunshine, and they'll sing every word, or they'll
Yes.
walk to the beat of the music, and you stop the music, and then they're very unsteady on their
Right,
feet.
right,
So music, there is a company, amazing company called SingFit. I think they're based out of California, and Andy Tubman is one of the founders I got to meet and spend time with, and I still stay in touch with one of the representatives from the company. But it is an amazing company that people can do in senior living, they can do in their homes. It is such a great company to look at too, because it does help exercise the brain.
So
Wow.
with someone that is that bad, where you turn on the music, they sing and they do, and you turn it off and they stop, can they repair their brain and ever
Not
come out of
usually. I mean,
that?
there's a
No.
point of no return, I mean,
Okay.
when somebody has a history of dementia in their family, are they going to get it? Not necessarily. They're at higher risk, just like they're at higher risk for heart disease or diabetes or
Right.
blood pressure or cancer. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, it means you're at higher risk. It's the same thing with dementia. It just means you're at higher risk. So if there's a family history of it, if they're noticing signs of challenges or they're very newly diagnosed, those are when we really can make a difference, in their
Hmm.
worlds. Once they get past a certain point, it's kind of a point of no return,
Okay.
really.
Okay.
And so we really, at that point in time, want to just create memorable moments throughout the day for them. We want to make them comfortable. We want to make sure they're being well cared for, because at some point you're not going to reverse the damage that's been done. It is kind of like when a car gets totaled, even your
Right.
insurance says, yep, we're kind of at a point of no return. The car's
Yeah.
totaled. It's going to cost
Yeah.
us more to fix it than if we just totaled it and you got something new, which some people, if you get more than you owe on your car, great. If you don't, you're a little
Yeah.
frustrated over it, right? So,
Yeah.
there's always these points of no return.
Okay. So I'm thinking about my dad when we're talking about all of this stuff. And
Mhm.
you talk about singing, he big music person. He loves playing his keyboard, loves doing that, singing. And there's songs that he's been singing. He's 82. He's been singing for hundreds of years,
So,
right?
mhm.
And he'll sing the song and then he can't remember it a couple hours later or the next day, can't think of the words, doesn't know it at
But
all.
if you put
So
the music on, I'll bet you he would just jump right in and sing
he'll
it.
start probably,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Yeah.
would probably
SingFit might
kick
be
in, right?
really, SingFit might
Hmm.
be really, really good for him. And it really, where I look at people and I'm like, where's that point of no return?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's a little bit different. There's not a blanket approach that I could say, well, this is what
Yeah.
would be. Because I've seen people with varying scores on cognitive assessments. And I do a lot of sitting and talking and evaluating. And then that's when I can make recommendations to the individual or the family about what I
Okay.
believe, where they're at, and what next steps look like.
Nice. Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. Very, very,
Mhm.
very good. Okay. I know I used to use that luminosity all the time too. All
Mhm.
those
It's a
games. I
great
used to play
program.
those all. Oh yeah, they're very cool.
Mhm. And they're
Good.
challenging, aren't they?
They are, right? And yeah, you have the I don't know if that was a brain what was it? Brain HQ. Maybe there's one that does the math and it's quick math and it gets you
Yes.
through. And it's like sometimes you're fantastic at it. The next day it's like, why? I love math. Why can't I do this math? But there was
Yeah.
just all those kinds of things. I love that kind of stuff. So that's
Well, and
interesting.
there's a science. I just read an article. There is a gentleman out of Florida. He focuses a lot with head injuries because he had his own
Oh,
head
okay.
injury, but he's very good when it comes to the brain. But he posted something not too long ago where after there's some science now that shows the timing of when you should do things.
Hmm.
Meaning that, if you exercise or you're getting oxygenated blood to the brain, then the best time to insulate what you did is within about 3 to 4 hours, no more than 5, is going in and doing the cognitive exercising or learning something new, or you're pushing yourself. So there's
Hmm.
now the science is showing us a timeline of when to do what,
Hmm.
to help strengthen even more. I mean, even bodybuilders will tell you that there's certain ways you do it to make your body be the most enhanced that it can be. So now we're learning that
Hmm.
about the brain as well.
Yeah, and with
So interesting.
exercising,
So
if you're
interesting.
doing intense exercising within a half an hour, you've got to have protein to
Yep.
help your muscles rebuild. So what you said makes absolute sense. If you're doing the
Yep.
exercising, getting the oxygen, that's your window for training it.
Feeding
Yep,
your
yep,
brain.
because the
Nice.
oxygenated blood is like oil for your car. And so your brain, especially with hydration and oxygenated blood, your brain is very lubricated and it's very open to receiving the next thing. And so then learning something new or doing the brain exercising within a few hours after that exercise thing, you're going to solidify or really strengthen what you're already working on. And so
Awesome.
the timeline behind even what we do to protect and maintain cognitive health has become really interesting, and it's very, very new. That piece of it. What's interesting is in 2005, the Centers for Disease Control actually rolled out a brain health initiative. And
Mm.
when I talk to people, whether it's doctors or people in the industry, they have no idea the CDC even did this in 2005, and that was 20 years
Wow.
ago. And so people still think that this is very new information. It's been around a lot of years. We just don't, it's not our first go-to, and it's not something that we implement regularly. So it feels like an emerging new market. And
Hmm.
so I do a lot of education more than I do anything else with people because it's like they've never heard of it before.
Isn't it shocking, right?
Mhm.
It's crazy. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness. Very, very cool. Our next segment, we've already talked about the fine line between brain fog, forgetfulness, and that. So, um, we don't need to get into that again, but I'm curious, are there behavioral changes in people that are starting to have that onset dementia? More
Yeah.
than just forgetfulness, do their personalities change? Is there changes that way?
That's a great question. And
Thanks.
there are people who end up with like sleep deprivation and the brain starts to
Mhm.
shrink. We see those individuals be more irritable. Or more aggressive or assertive in
Mhm.
how they interact with individuals. That is usually, and especially for someone, and I guess I use myself as such a good example because for the most part, I'm very low key. But if I haven't had a good night's sleep, my husband can notice it because I'll snap. I mean, I have this little edge to my voice if I'm overwhelmed or if I haven't had a bad night's sleep. And I know that about myself. And I can see by people's reactions and they'll look at me or they'll go, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I need to back up a little bit. So what we
Yeah.
start noticing is personality changes. We'll notice
Mhm.
somebody who is not as talkative. We notice somebody who's more irritable, aggressive. We notice people who more emotional, more tearful. And so it starts showing up as more as personality changes and emotional things. And then we start to question like what's really going on. The challenge with it all, though, is because everybody's life is so busy and we run 1,000 miles a minute. If we take a step back to say, "Are you okay?" And they go, "Oh, I just didn't get a good night's sleep last night." And we go, "Oh, yeah," and we help excuse it away, unfortunately, instead of stopping and saying, "Well, how long have you been feeling like this?" Because when our lives are going so busy, so busy, so busy, and then if they said, "Oh, I didn't even get a chance to eat lunch yesterday or today,"
Mhm.
and this is what happened, and because we all have experienced it, we just go, "Oh, yeah, oh, I'm so sorry that that happened." So we empathize with them, but we don't really stop to say, "Hey, this has been going on a few days. Maybe we need to take a step back and again, the self audit, the self evaluation, what's happening, and is this something where you just need a good night's sleep, or are you traveling down a road right now that we need to take more seriously?"
Yep. And
That would tie
you
into
tick
your
all
net.
the boxes for
Mhm.
my more emotional. My
Really?
dad's more emotional, doesn't sleep really solid, and just that whole that snappy. I say, yo, like calm down, man. It's just
Mhm.
still yeah, but he doesn't even realize that he's snapping at me,
Most
right?
people
So
don't. Yeah,
yeah,
most
yeah.
people don't because the way the brain they're working so hard to focus on what they're trying
Mm,
to do, they don't stop and
no.
realize their tone of voice, their cadence. I've even seen people who the cadence of their voice or how they're communicating is almost like they're walking through, mud, that's very
Yeah.
slow or their cadence is different. And so
Yeah.
when I'm out and about, like if I'm at church or I'm in a grocery store and I can listen, I pick up on it faster, than somebody else would. But yes, there's a lot of things that if we're paying attention, it can be red flags and say, let's take a step back and evaluate this for a second. And unfortunately, our society, we just help excuse it away and then it
Right.
becomes
Yeah.
problematic.
Nice.
I think that goes
Crazy.
back to your point early in the conversation about your network, right? Like
Mhm.
when you were saying like you had
Mhm.
aunts and uncles helping kids with driving. If you have a solid network system, then they would notice your changes,
Mhm.
right? So like for me, like my mom recently passed, and so I am different right now. And so my very best friend told me I was being prickly, right?
Yeah, that's a
Prickly,
good
Really.
word, huh?
prickly,
Yeah.
which isn't like me, but because the network system is already in place, they know how Cynthia normally is to how
Mhm.
Cynthia is now. And so my question would be for Tracy is it with your dad, when you say, Dad, you're being a little prickly, is that in place already for him to say, okay, Tracy, let's have a conversation? Or because it's, father daughter, is it different?
Yeah, no, we absolutely are having this conversation because that we think he's at that onset of dementia. Like there's absolutely something going on, right? So he's extremely active. He's this little fella that just doesn't stop. He go, 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 go. So his body, he's extremely healthy that way. But again, migraines, right? And just now he can't come up with words at all. Like he can't get a person's name correct. He'll see people, he doesn't recognize them. But as soon as they say, "Hey, oh yeah, okay." And sometimes you can see he still doesn't get it, but he'll fake his way through it.
Oh.
Right. So yeah, there's a
It's
lot.
It is amazing. There are a lot of things that can mimic dementia symptoms,
That's my
and
other
it
question.
could be
Okay.
the only thing it might be is lack of sleep, or not hydrated, or malnourished, or altercations to
Oh,
medications. I mean, there's so many things that if we correct that piece, then the person all of a sudden starts becoming their normal self again. But it's
okay.
identifying, and that's why I go through and do an evaluation with people and say, let's talk about each of these things, and if I can pinpoint something and say, let's start working on this and let's start focusing
Right.
on this. And that's how, when it appears, like I'm not reversing dementia, dementia is dementia. But
Mhm.
what we're doing is we're getting people on the right lifestyle program, and we can reverse the cognitive decline that's happening
Yeah.
because it's being caused by lack of sleep, or it's being caused by malnutrition or dehydration. And when we fix that, we can absolutely reverse the challenges of cognitive decline.
Nice. Well, that's
And Tracy,
exciting.
does he follow
Right.
your diet? Because I mean, living with you,
Yeah.
carnivore, I can't imagine he doesn't.
He does kind of. Like he tried really hard to do it. And again, I'm not strict carnivore, right? Like I eat dirty carnivore, I suppose you could call it, right? So I don't eat vegetables or fruits because they just don't agree with my tummy. But
Mhm.
I'm the high fat, animal based, grass fed meats, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So he was doing that, but he's extremely picky eater. Dad, I know you're gonna listen to this. Uh he will not try new foods. You know, he's 82, he's set in his way. He doesn't like fats. He's that old school, you gotta cut all the fat off of everything because fat's not good for you, but healthy fat is good for you, right? So, and I keep telling him, you gotta get that in to feed your brain. You need that healthy fat.
So one of the things that I recommend to people, there is a product called Miracle Berries. I would love to have developed this product. I did not. It just happens to be called Miracle Berries.
That's
Um,
funny.
and I'm happy to send you, like, because if you get it on Amazon, there's a lot of stuff called Miracle Berry, so you have to
Oh,
know what
okay.
to get. But product comes in a little tablet, and what you
Oh,
want to do is let the tablet completely dissolve in your mouth. You want it to coat your tongue and your sides of your mouth and the roof and everything like that. And then
mhm.
when you wait about 10 to 15 minutes, what it does is it enhances the taste buds in your mouth. Basically, it enhances
Oh,
the sweet taste bud. Right now, kids think it's cool because they can eat it and bite into lemons and it tastes like lemonade, or they bite into limes. And so it's a cool trick
that's
for,
so cool.
kiddos. But what I found is that we were able to maintain and help people gain weight by using it. It was actually a product designed for people going through chemotherapy, because chemotherapy
Oh,
gives a metallic taste in their mouth and they wouldn't eat, and then they lose weight and it becomes problematic. But what I have found for older adults, like I had my mom and dad doing this, I've had a lot of residents doing it. I recommend it. But when I do that, yeah, it helps enhance different flavors in what they're eating, because as we age, our taste buds go away.
mm,
And the thing left is our sweet taste bud. It's the last one to go. So then we gravitate to the wrong types of things for our body.
right, right.
So this product actually helps people stay on track with what they should be eating, and it enhances the flavors of what they eat. And so they don't
Yeah,
tend to gravitate to the sweets as much because they're still
yeah.
enjoying the flavors of what they're eating. Does it work for everybody? No, nothing works 100% of the time. Like
No,
my husband
right.
hates the product. He never wants me to have him try it ever again. He did it once for me and he'll never do it again. But I find it works more often than it doesn't.
Okay,
Wow.
very cool. And it's worth a try, right?
And it's worth a
You don't
try.
know.
That's
Yeah,
exactly it. Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't chew the tablet. If it's going to be something they
Dissolve.
chew, then you kind of have to pulverize it into a powder for them so that it coats
Okay.
the mouth. So they can't chew it. So if people don't understand to let it dissolve, then we used to just take one of the bowls with the
Yep, yep,
mortar and pestle, I think. We used to
yeah.
do that and just crush it into a powder
Mm.
and then have the powder coat the mouth. And that's not as effective, but it's still effective.
Hmm,
So
very cool.
Tracy's dad is going to listen to this. So Kathy, what would you recommend for fats for him to eat?
Healthy fats. If he, I get avocados, if he'll eat avocados, if he'll eat almonds, any kind of nut, is really
Yeah.
good for him. Salmon, tuna, mackerel, halibut. At the very least, I would have him, if people ask me about supplements all the time, do supplements work?
Right.
I'm like, well, really, again, it depends on your body and what you'll absorb and all of that. But fish oil or krill oil, our body
Mm-hmm.
actually absorbs krill oil better than it does fish oil. So
Okay.
the healthy omega-3s, even chia seeds. So people always, my husband won't eat chia seeds, but chia seeds, they look like these little black
Yeah.
dots, but you can sprinkle them on salads. You can sprinkle them in anything you're eating, and they're very rich in protein, potassium, calcium, omega-3s. And so you could sprinkle those on just about anything.
What do you think about MCT oils, coconut oil, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff?
Yeah,
Yep.
MCT oils, coconut oils.
Okay.
Because I get asked so much about supplements, I'm doing a lot more education. I'm educating myself more on the
Mm.
supplements, the do's and don'ts, because our bodies, we don't you it's not like we have so much processed food in our society now, and so it's really can be
Horrible.
complicated. So supplements can be a really great way to be able to help keep our body very, very healthy. So
Mm.
I'm actually starting to do a lot more education on supplements, just again because I get asked about it a lot.
Yeah. And they're not all made the same either.
No.
They're
You
not all made the
have to
same
get a
either.
quality. Yes.
That's exactly it. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you. Good. Where are we at here? You kind of, I think we already went over that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had a
Great.
question about the specific tests you would recommend for someone. Is there, have we covered that? I know you talked about the different types of doctors they could see.
The
Yeah.
Um,
slum test and
the
the
slum
OCA
test,
test.
Slums, the
right?
Mocha, there's one called the Kingston. The
Slum
one I tell
mocha.
people sort of to stay away from is the mini mental. The mini
Okay.
mental was very popular years ago. What I don't like about the mini mental is one, it doesn't test every part of the brain.
Okay.
And two, one of the questions on it is, what is your mother's maiden name? They can give you any name and you have to mark it correct, and you don't know whether it's correct or not. So I know that there are doctors out there that still do it. I got asked by an attorney's office to do it to determine cognitive ability to sign legal documents. So I kind of educated them as to why I don't use it, and then they were fine with me using whatever I wanted to. Learning RX actually does a brain skills assessment for people, and it identifies the strengths and weaknesses of the brain in about 7 different cognitive skills. Those are the brain skills assessments are wonderful to do.
Okay.
And because they can really dive into, is it auditory memory? Is it visual memory? Is it short-term memory? Is it auditory processing? Is it attention? Is it logic and reasoning? So
Wow.
Learning
Okay.
RX has a really great assessment. And again, if you don't have one in your local area, you can contact the corporate office and they can get you in touch with somebody who's a national provider to do it. And so that's
Okay.
also another one. They're not a diagnostic center. They're not going to diagnose anything, but at least it helps people identify the strengths and weaknesses of the brain.
Nice. Very interesting. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah, I like the
I'll
way you
note that
broke it
down.
down because this whole conversation has been the brain. The brain is one entity, but you just explained like with exercising, you got
Auditory
biceps,
and yeah.
triceps, glutes, but you just broke the brain down into, so if someone says I have brain fog or I'm losing my memory, is it auditory? Is it like there's different
Yeah.
sections, and until you figure
Yeah.
out the right one, how do you know
Yeah.
which one you're supposed to be exercising?
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
exactly it. I mean, I have a daughter, my youngest daughter, she was never diagnosed with ADHD, but we think she definitely has symptoms of it. But when we did her assessment, her brain skill assessment, visually, she's 95th, 98th percentile in her visual processing and in her visual memory. And her short-term memory is above the 50th percentile, but her auditory processing and her auditory memory were down beneath 10 percentile. So anything she
Wow.
heard, she didn't process, she didn't retain, and then she couldn't follow through on. And so I was like, well, that'd have been nice to know in school. And so
Yeah.
when I have people who come and they tell me about they've going through cancer treatment or they're having brain fog or something has happened, they've had a concussion, a head injury, stroke, whatever it is, we always say, let's start here because most people don't get educated that there actually are 4 types of memory. They just
Yeah.
think my memory is bad. I'm like, well, what part of your memory is, and let's target that and strengthen that first,
Yeah.
because then you're going to see a difference in how you're functioning on a daily basis.
Wow. Fantastic. Yeah. You say these words, and you think, well, I've heard that before, but you don't really think about it, right? Like
Right,
the auditory, all that stuff. That's so cool.
right,
Very, very cool.
right. That's exactly
This
it.
might be a stupid question, but what
Oh,
is
No
the
stupid questions.
difference? What is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? I don't know that.
Oh,
I don't know if it's the same thing.
it is and it isn't. Okay, so no,
Okay.
that is not a silly question. I think I think the most popular question I ever got asked in my career is, why do you do what you do? That's my most popular question.
Okay.
But another popular question was, what is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? And
Okay.
so the way I describe it to people is, if I were, I'm having lunch with you guys and I just came from the doctor and like, how did that go? And I go, well, I just got diagnosed with cancer. Your very first question might be, what type? Like what kind of cancer, right?
Right.
So that's the same thing. Dementia is your big umbrella, like cancer is your big umbrella. And
Okay.
underneath cancer, how many different types of cancer can somebody have? Well, oh my gosh, the list can go on and on. The
Yeah.
most, the cancer that I believe gets diagnosed the most is breast cancer, right?
Yes.
So this is the same thing. Dementia is your big umbrella, like cancer is your big umbrella. The most common form of dementia is Alzheimer's. So it makes
Okay.
up for 60 to 80% of all diagnoses around the world. So somebody, if they have Alzheimer's, they have dementia. But if they have dementia, it doesn't mean they have Alzheimer's. They could have a different form of
Yeah.
dementia, like Lewy body or frontal temporal or vascular, or. Those are
Wow.
the common ones we hear about. So Alzheimer's is just the most common form of dementia.
Very well. Thank you. I've never known that, and I've always
There you
wondered.
go.
I didn't even know
So-
there was other forms, like the way you
No, I
just
didn't
explained
either.
it.
Yeah.
I think I've only ever heard Alzheimer's dementia, but you
Yeah.
just said a whole
Yeah.
bunch of words I've never heard.
No, me
Yeah,
too.
it's
Yeah.
it's and I haven't cared for every single one out there. I've cared for some rare ones, and I've met some people with some rare ones. But yeah, it's most people think that Alzheimer's is only so they get confused as to why are those two terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Thank you,
Mhm.
thank you, thank you. This has been such an informative conversation.
It has.
Good.
As we wrap up, what's one key takeaway you'd like every woman listening today to walk away with, especially when it comes to protecting their cognitive health and managing the challenges of caregiving?
One takeaway, what I would tell any woman is take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. That by far is the most important message out of this today. And then if you implement the lifestyle program that I talked about, then that is going to protect and help maintain cognitive health.
Yeah.
So it has to be
Beautiful.
intentional. Has to be
Yeah.
scheduled, has to be intentional.
Yep, 100%.
Uh,
Thank you.
Kathi, I really appreciate how you brought compassion because you can tell how much you deeply care about this, but you also brought us practical tools. So one thing I'm taking away is that we can't wait. We cannot wait, ladies, anyone listening, until there's a crisis to start supporting your brain health. So
Correct.
for all the women who are listening right now and maybe feel scared about what she's noticing herself or a loved one, so what's the very first step she can take this week to feel more empowered and less overwhelmed, Kathi?
Take at least 5 minutes, a couple of
Yeah.
times this week,
Okay.
even if it's just to do some deep breathing exercise or go at lunch and go walk around the parking lot, spend 5 minutes more in a hot shower. Just take 5 minutes, 2 to 3 times this week, just for yourself.
Awesome.
Love it. Beautiful. Good, good, good. All right, Kathi, thank you so much for being here and
Thank
sharing your
you.
with us today. So
Sure.
good.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Oh
you.
man, such a pleasure. Where can our listeners where can our listeners find more information about your work and your upcoming book? I believe you have an
Yes.
upcoming book coming out.
Yes, we have a book. I have a book coming out this fall called Your Ticket to Compassion, Navigating the Dementia Journey. That, along with all information and how to get a hold of me, is on our website, mysilvertsunami.com. The book can be pre-purchased now at a discounted rate, and I can be booked as a consultant, or I do a 1-hour free consultation with individuals, and so they can fill out a contact form on our website, and either me or one of my staff will get in touch with them and we'll schedule some time.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Love that. Love that. Okay. Wonderful. So thanks again.
Thank
Oh,
you.
so good.
You
To
guys
all
have
of
a
our listeners, yep, don't forget to like and subscribe, share this episode with a friend or family member who might need to hear it. Okay. And as always, the links to Kathi and to ourselves will be in the show notes. And remember, in a world where you could be anything, be happy, be kind, and be healthy.
Thanks for tuning in to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with anyone you think would benefit from the topics we're discussing. We'd love to hear from you. DM us with your thoughts, comments, or ideas for future episodes. And don't forget to check out the links in our bio if you'd like to connect with any of us or learn more about what we do. Until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be happy, and be healthy.